We can start.
Thank you. Thank you for the permission. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cringy Movie Collection Podcast. We're back with another movie to discuss. My name is Raf.
Yeah.
I have a heckler.
I thought you forgot to introduce yourself.
I'm aware. You fucking heckler. It's funny that you suggested somehow I could be behaving unprofessionally on this podcast that you deliberately try to constantly derail. Do you want to say anything about yourself? No. Today we're going to discuss...
Hi, I'm Ludo. I'm Raf's girlfriend, and I'm the only one allowed to behave unprofessionally during the recording of this podcast. I also have a very crimson tea.
Okay. Today we're going to discuss the movie Fantastic Four from the year 2005. So that's the one with Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Ioan Gruffudd, Michael Chiklis, the 20th Century Fox one, directed by Tim Story.
Is anybody alive there?
Thank you. Ioan Gruffudd, of course, happens to be in this movie, but also in the movie Titanic. And as we have discussed previously, I know the movie Titanic quite well. And so I kept quoting his line from Titanic, which is there anyone alive out there? Anyway, I should probably quickly explain what this podcast is. I acquired a bunch of DVDs during my late teens, early tweens, I guess. And there are a lot of kind of 2000s movies, and I still have most of those DVDs. And now, like 15 years later, my girlfriend and I are going through the collection, and we're watching many of these quite terrible movies, and I let her berate me for my bad taste.
And then we get to burn the worst of them.
That's right. Now, this one you have actually seen before, is that
Yes.
right? Okay. So before we get into the podcast, just like I remember watching it at the time and not thinking it was great, but having a good time. How did you feel back then?
So, I really like the Fantastic Four as a comic book, like comics.
You read the comics?
Yes, because my mom had them from the 70s. And they were so
original
cool.
lying around just somewhere.
Yes, she had a box of comic books from when she was a teenager. And she used to read the Fantastic Four. And I loved the Fantastic Four. I wanted to be the elastic Mr. Fantastic with all this, like,
Elastic
wavy...
Mr. Fantastic. Is that why he's called Mr. Fantastic? Because it rhymes?
Oh, now we know, people. We just discovered the truth, uncovered the truth.
Because to be fair, just like in this movie, him being called Mr. Fantastic just means like it's not in any correlation to his powers.
I read the comics from my mom and I really loved them. Then I tried to buy the comics from when I was living in the late 90s.
You were living in the late 90s?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I didn't like the drawings anymore. So when the movie came out, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this movie. And I didn't particularly like it because I don't like superhero movies.
Thank you for that.
That's the story of why I watched the Fantastic Four.
It actually ties into why I have this movie. So let's
Why do you have this movie? And also, did you pay for it?
No. It is among the ones that have been swiped, similar to Robots, which we discussed in the last episode. And the reason why I've decided, this could be it. It was in the bargain bin, as always. That's the main criterion for stealing movies.
It's the strategy.
Yeah. But the point was that, like, quite a while back, someone showed me, like, I was at a boarding school where we weren't allowed to watch any movies. So movies were like a forbidden thing that we kind of secretly, tried to get access to. And on the library computer, one of my friends showed me a bootleg scene from I think a trailer it was for Spider-Man 2. And there was a scene of Spider-Man in the subway or in the monorail or whatever it is, kind of doing acrobatics. And I thought that looked incredibly cool. And I was like, oh my God, superhero movies are fantastic. I want to see what they do with that kind of supernatural, essentially, idea of what if humans could behave in ways that aren't natural. And so I got into Spider-Man and much later also Batman, and in between I just kind of watched all the superhero movies except X-Men for some reason. I don't know what the reason was.
X-Men is the best.
I mean, maybe that's why they weren't in the bargain bin and I ended up not watching them.
I like the fact that even when you steal, you're very cheap. Remember that there are a lot of people that they realize that they are gay because they watch a movie and they fall in love with the character and they start having feelings.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. It happens.
People watch movie stars and they go this man is very attractive, so I must be gay?
Well, I don't know. I know a lot of women that this happened to, that they realize they're attracted to
Well, I don't know any
women
men that has this happened to.
Because it's the first... Well, usually it's the first woman crushes because you have this woman in the movies. But this is actually what happened to me, is that I realized I was not completely only attracted to girls because I really like the human flame guy. It's very hot. So
Chris Evans.
Yes. So maybe also
human flame guy.
Guys,
the Human Torch. So this was the sexual revolution of Ludovica.
Yeah, because I always thought I preferred women because boobs are very nice.
So this was Chris Evans, not from the comics.
No, from the movie. Yes.
Okay. So this movie opened you up to
the fact that
heterosexuality.
Guys don't have boobs, but they can still be hot.
Literally.
This is why he's the flame. It's like Mr. Fantastic is elastic and the Human Torch is hot.
Can you tell me what you think this movie was actually about?
Okay, there is some kind of solar event. Allegedly, it can be harnessed to cure diseases. So this guy that is elastic guy, but it's not
Reed
elastic
Richards.
yet.
You can call him also Johan Griffith, but I can't remember his name.
Is anybody alive there? Goes to the rich guy.
Is there anybody alive out there?
Goes to the rich guy.
Victor Von Doom.
Oh, Victor, yes. Reed has an idea to harness this solar power in space, but he has no money. So he has to go to Victor to make this plan go.
Yes, and his last name is Von Doom, and
they are doomed.
Yeah. And halfway through the movie, someone actually goes like... Well, he says
like
something.
The tabloids. One Doom is doomed.
Yeah, like it's being pointed at about how ridiculous it is, and I was annoyed.
Anyway, so they go to the rich guy. Reed's ex-girlfriend now works for Victor.
Sue Storm.
Yes, and also they're dating. So they're all there in the tight quarter of the space mission with Reed is the sidekick that is gonna become the Thing, and is a astronaut.
What is his name? What is the Thing's name? Ben something?
Ben, yes.
Okay. Michael Chiklis is the actor that I remember portraying him.
And
Ben Grimm. There we go.
There is Ben, Victor, Reed, Sue, and also Sue's brother that is also an astronaut.
Johnny
and
Storm.
Apparently, he is now the boss of Ben, but the tables are turned because Ben was his boss when he was a rascal at NASA. So the tables have turned, and Ben doesn't like it because Johnny's stupid.
Yes, they set up that they don't like each other in general.
Yes, nobody really likes Johnny so much. It's a bit unbearable.
Which is weird because outside of this team, everybody loves Johnny.
As he should.
That's what happens with hot people. If you don't know their personality, everybody loves them. But
I
once
actually really like his personality as well.
being a cocky asshole.
Yeah, because he pulled
God.
pranks on everybody.
Does that say something about me because you're my girlfriend?
Why? You're not hot.
You seem to like cocky assholes.
Anyway, so the mission doesn't go to plan, and they get exposed to this sandstorm.
Sandstorm.
Sunstorm.
Okay.
So the mission fails and they go back to Earth. They're in the ski resort quarantining and they start having weird symptoms and they realize about their weird symptoms in the most, in the lamest way possible. So for example, the guy is mega hot and then they decide to go skiing and he becomes a flame and then he starts a thermal bath into the snow. And
right, because he falls off his snowboard into the snow, and then there's a little jacuzzi.
Yes, and
sex,
they
probably.
bang.
Yeah.
While Sue, for example, discovered that she can be invisible because she's like talking to Reed, and it's like, oh, you don't listen to me. I feel invisible. I feel not seen, and then she becomes invisible at the same time.
She goes, look at me, and Owen Griffiths goes, I can't. I literally can't.
Yeah. So the Fantastic Four are born, but they are not happy about it, especially the Thing, because he's now orange.
And he's a thing.
And also, he tries to go back to his fiancée, a woman that agreed to be with him forever in sickness and in health, or she's about to agree that. And she is very horny, and she's waiting for him.
She was so horny, she ran out into the street in her pajamas.
It's not pajamas, it's a negligee.
Whatever. To bang the guy there and then, as he had just returned from his space mission. And then the horniness goes away once she realizes that he is a rock.
Yeah.
Oh.
The world will come to know the Fantastic Four because there is commotion on a bridge.
So there's a big commotion, and the Fantastic Four kind of revealed to the public in that situation.
Yes, and also Sue discovered that she can make a force field, so that's way
right.
cooler than being just invisible. So that's
Right.
it. So they become like a sensation, but they're still trying to get back to normal, especially for the Thing that is not really having a good time.
Right.
While Johnny is having the best time.
Yes, he realizes that he might be able to fly.
Yeah, if he gets a supernova.
Yeah.
It has to be very, very hard to fly.
Right. He also pranks Ben, who is like in this super fragile state.
Yes.
He puts like shaving cream on his head.
I love it.
It's terrible.
And he makes popcorn just by holding it in his hand.
That's a good visual. I
Yeah,
thought that was good.
that's very nice. Anyway, so there are conflicting emotions about if they want to be superheroes or not. But in the meantime, also, Victor realizes that he has powers. He has magnetic powers, the electromagnetic powers, and he decides that he's happy about it because everything is going bad in his own personal and work life.
Yeah, Victor also seems to be made of metal.
Yes.
He has a scar on the side of his face, and he just picks out a little bit of aluminum or something out of there.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
Basically what happened is like when Victor is talking to the doctor is trying to explain this to you, and Victor realizes that his flesh and everything else is turning into the same metal alloy that the doors of the space station were made of, because Victor closed the shields of the space station, so he's becoming a human shield.
That's a general tendency again with these powers. They're all very much on the nose.
Yeah. So Victor is very happy about his powers because he has been demoted as CEO, and he is not with Sue anymore because Sue is leaving altogether with the Fantastic Four. And she's probably kind of going back with Reed. This is what everybody is anticipating.
Even though no chemistry available at all.
So his life is going down the drain, and he decided that he's gonna use his power to kill everybody. So he starts killing everybody, and the Fantastic Four realize that it's important to be superheroes because they can save the city. And even Ben, that was able to go back to his original state of benness, decide that it's more important to save everybody and his friends, and in order to do so, he has to do the things. So they accept their fate as Fantastic Four. They defeat Victor.
Because Victor Von Doom is trying to break up the Fantastic Four. That's kind of his...
Yes, because he hates them. He's trying to just kill everybody in different ways that it's appropriate.
Creative ways, yeah.
They defeat him very quickly, and... they are a team.
Yeah, by the power of... But they defeat him by the power of CGI.
Yeah, they defeat him, they're a team, they're the Fantastic Four. Sue and Reed are back together, everybody's alive out there. And
very good.
And the movie ends.
I mean, honestly, at the end of this movie, I felt similar to how I felt about it before we started watching it. This is gonna be fine. Like, you can watch this. But there were several moments during the movie where, like, we watched it together and I was just complaining because several times I was like, who the hell wrote this? Oh, I mean, I actually wrote it down here. It was Michael France and Mark Frost who wrote this.
So, Michael and Mark, we need to talk. How many women have you met that think and say the things that Sue does? Every time she talks with Reed about their past relationship, or the fact that I should go back to Victor and stuff like that, it seems fake, okay? It seems fake.
But I think we don't have to ask this question the way you're asking it. I think we have to ask, have you met any humans? Not just women, because everybody talks like they're delivering expositions, like they're spelling out their motivations. Like, there is no like organic dialogue in this movie whatsoever, and certainly, like, I think there's not a lot of organic behavior in the movie. Like, everybody is a stereotype.
That is true.
Which, in a way, you could maybe say, well, you are establishing 5 different main characters, well, 4 main characters and a villain, and you know, you're doing it within 20 minutes, because then they already become kind of their superhero versions. So yeah, no wonder they're all cardboard cutouts. All of these characters are difficult to believe, except maybe Johnny Storm, because Johnny Storm is an asshole, and that is in and of itself a stereotype. Like, it doesn't have to be more nuanced than that. Like, I think Ben Grimm would be interesting if it was explored more, because there is, like, a crazy psychological aspect to that, which it just hints at the movie. It just expects you to know that.
But actually... Like, Johnny is the one that I'm waiting to know more about. Like, if there is a Fantastic Four 2, because he's so well established as an asshole and the most believable one, that it would be nice to see in the second movie him, actually he's not completely an asshole. Yeah. Well, everybody else is kind of lost because I don't really know who they are, because I can't believe it.
Yes, especially Reed Richards and Sue Storm, I think, are the kind of the worst written characters in that respect. But also the villain, I feel. I mean, okay, bad things happen to him, therefore he's angry, right? That's whatever. There's a scene in the movie where he just sits in the background scowling at Reed Richards and Sue Storm at a table, and there's a lingering shot, and it's so weird. And
we could accept cringy stereotyped characters if the action scenes were very well made.
You mean, like, if this whole movie was just a vehicle to get really cool action scenes onto your eyeballs, you wouldn't care that, like, their motivation is lacking or whatever. You could say, you know what, I'm here to see the big jumps or big fights or whatever. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about this then. There's kind of two things, I think, in this movie. There's, on the one hand, there's like action, like physical action, which there isn't a lot of. And then,
but it's very cool because there is a snowboard scene and a motorcycle
but then there's,
scene.
There's also special effects, which is, at the time was, like in the 2000s, it became kind of like, this is how we could do action instead of actually doing interesting stunts. Like we talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark, in the first episode of this podcast. That was like, how do you like make something physical that's like appealing and unusual and all those things, right? And then you carry this over into, you know, what if we had a stretchy man punching someone with his stretchy arm, right? Like that's not quite the same as action because it's just a visual effect put into a real life setting, but it can be used as a surrogate and has similar effects. The action in this movie, so the kind of the physical stuff, like I said, there isn't much of it, but I didn't mind any of it. Like I like the kind of skiing and snowboarding stuff.
Yes, that's cool, but it's not like the actions that are well done are not relevant to the plot.
Yeah, so there's the skiing and snowboarding. There's some biking at
the motorcycle one.
Yeah, there's a sort of a stunt show, and Johnny Storm goes there because he's so bored. Those stunts look cool, but like you said, we didn't need to see it. Although oftentimes action scenes don't drive the plot forward or whatever like that.
But
that's
there
kind of
are other action scenes like the ones in the on the bridge and when they're defeating Victor.
The bridge scene is kind of physical as well. Like we see the Thing stopping a truck by slamming his shoulder into it.
This is cool, but then the last... Okay, let's say just every time the elastic guy does something, I don't like it. Like, it's very cringy done. Like, everything about Reed is cringy, basically.
Right. How did you feel about the transformation between the Human Torch and Johnny Storm?
So, they did a lot about... like the transformation starting in his eyes, and this is why there are so many should have been wearing glasses, because you should see the flames behind that. I don't mind it particularly. I think that he and Sue could be improved in their transformation, but they're not as bad as Mr. Fantastic.
I think Johnny Storm, like you can just, I think he looks fine as the Human Torch, but every transformation, it's just like CGI, not CGI. Like you can just see when they stop doing the special effect, and that's a special effect shouldn't stand out. That's my big issue here. And so I think yes, it could be improved, and I personally have the suspicion that you could have in fact improved them at the time. Like it's not just, you know, if you'd made this movie 10 years later, it would have looked much better. But
no, also I'm not a fan of this kind of thinking, because I love when they made special effects with like tiny models, and you could see they were tiny models, but it was still like awe-inducing. So,
and it was great when you had them interact seamlessly with other things, right? Like if you felt like, okay, now we're watching a stop motion scene, now the stop motion scene has ended and we're watching live action again, that wouldn't be good. That's like you're watching two different movies and you're switching back and forth. Yeah. But if you somehow find a way with rear projection or something like that to have the humans interact with the little puppets and all those things, right, then that feels like that's how it should be done.
Also, you know what makes everything more smooth?
I feel like something bad is coming.
Micromodal fabric, that is the softest fabric known to man. And you know what makes things out of micromodal? MeUndies. And with MeUndies, your butt is gonna be enveloped in the softest thing, and it's gonna be seamless transition between your cheeky butt and
oh my god,
your
are you
pants.
talking about the listeners' butts? That's so rude, and you don't have to, because we're not getting any money from MeUndies or anyone. It's just a stupid
Okay, so
free
you can
podcast
also have onesies in which all of your body is going to be wrapped in the softest fabric known to man. And if you look in the show notes,
what show
sooner
notes?
Or later, our show notes, sooner or later, you will find a code. It's going to be Cringe15 for 15% off.
All of this is made up.
First
Imagine someone going to MeUndies and putting in Cringe15, and then they're like, no, invalid code. And then
we should boycott MeUndies until we get a code.
wow, that's a new attitude. I remember like 2 episodes ago, you were like, "No, I would never say anything bad about MeUndies because I love them so much." Okay, bailing out.
I'm not wearing MeUndies today, so I'm not wearing this micromodal shield.
Bailing out. One thing that I want to point out when we're talking about the special effects is that while all the Fantastic Four kind of powers are special effects, the Thing is the big exception here because he's wearing kind of a foam-looking suit, and I think that suit looks fantastic in still shots.
But not in the neck area.
As the second he moves, you can see at the neck all the creases, and then it looks like he's wearing very plushy pajamas.
Like MeUndies would do.
We should come back to the point of writing in this movie as well, because it's also like something that I talked about with Pearl Harbor is kind of this carelessness. Like scenes don't have to be coherent between each other.
Oh my god, the characters in Pearl Harbor now seem so deep.
Well, but the movie is like twice as long, so like they just get more time to do stuff. I appreciate actually this movie is short. Like short as for like, you know, like now a superhero movie is always 2 hours or more. And this is 140 or something like that. So, you know, like a regular movie length. And I appreciate that. No, but there's just like... So, for example, right, there is a scene on the bridge that we mentioned already, which is kind of the first little adventure that the Fantastic Four have together. Sue wants to get to Ben, but there's a lot of chaos in front of them. And there's people and there's police stopping people from going there. And so they go like, you know what, Sue, just undress while you're invisible. That way they won't be able to see you. If you go invisible while dressed, they can see your clothes wiggling around because the clothes unfortunately don't go invisible. So let's do that. So there's a big, you know, scene. And,
unfortunately.
Yeah, where like, I mean, so look, I think you can do something like this. Mm-hmm. Like if this was a guy, this wouldn't be a problem. It would be
but of
just
course,
funny.
The only character that has to undress to activate their power is a girl.
To be fair, when Johnny Storm ignites the first time, his clothes do burn off. So, like, it's not that it's sexist per se, but it is the classic, like, oh, obviously they wanted to see a bra, like, fly in the air, you know, like, no, they dragged this shit out and wanted to see Jessica Alba's tits. Because she does come visible once she's in her underwear.
Yeah.
So, no, you don't get away with that. But anyway, she does that. She undresses, eventually figures it out, and goes through the crowd. And then, on the other side of the crowd, there is just Reed Richards and Johnny Storm, who just somehow snuck by the whole commotion with her clothes.
They have to hand her back the clothes, otherwise she cannot be visible anymore.
We can literally see, once the invisible woman goes into kind of the area that is off limits, we can literally see Reed and Johnny
just
walk by it at the same time, carrying her clothes, just completely nullifying this whole thing. Again, kind of pointing the finger straight at, we just wanted to see her boobs.
Or we just wanted to see some superpowers used now because it's been like 2 minutes since we used it last time.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you could say, well, it is the Fantastic Four on their first little adventure, so we need to see them use their powers. And going invisible wouldn't help once they actually start trying to save people. So they use it here. But still, it's just careless. They should have written a better scene that makes use of those powers. When Captain America: The First Avenger came out, I thought it was weird that they cast Chris Evans, who was the Human Torch in 2 movies already at the time.
So they used this, but these guys all look the same. Like it's like random hot guys.
What do you mean?
That
they are the same actor, of course they look the same.
No, I actually think that there is a bunch of Chris Evans that actually are called with different names. So they kind of look kind of similar. And then
it's clearly the same guy.
Sometimes, and then you have other people that are more recognizable. But there's like a bunch of similar hot guys that that are interchangeable. To be fair, this also happens with women.
But in this movie, obviously, the casting was a big question, and they considered a lot of people for the main roles. Now, how would you have felt if this movie starred Dennis Quaid as Reed Richards?
Oh, I would love it.
And Meg Ryan as Sue Storm.
Oh my, no, you're just...
I don't know where I heard this, but I think it was at least a rumor that they were considered, because I think they were together at the time.
Oh.
So they thought maybe there would be chemistry, and maybe there would have been. We don't know.
So Meg Ryan is my favorite woman of the 90s and in 2000s.
Yeah.
I just love her so much. And Dennis Quaid did The Scientist in The Day After Tomorrow, and I think he was very good in it.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because you said that Dennis Quaid always plays the dad and everything.
Yes, I really like Dennis Quaid. Has a lot of dad vibes.
I think dad energy would be good for Reed Richards. And I think maybe we would, it could stand to have a bit more in this movie, even though I think... Is there anyone alive out there is doing a good job? We should give credit to these actors. They are doing a great job, I think. None of them are not conveying what they're supposed to convey.
No, but now I want
it's just
that
not
energy.
Much. You want dad energy now that I mentioned it? Okay.
Yeah. You know who I would recast
Dennis
as
Quaid.
The Thing?
Oh, the Thing?
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid.
No.
Should I keep guessing until I get it?
I'm going to give you a hint.
Brad Pitt. Adam Baldwin?
Yes. He's going to be The Thing. And then we have Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, and we keep Chris Evans.
I think Michael Chiklis is great.
I know, but I want something that is good at, somebody that is good at and being a bit more comical, because I think that you could lighten up The Thing a little bit.
I think, again, a lot of why The Thing isn't lighthearted is the script. It does want to kind of push a little bit in the direction of this is kind of a fucked up situation for him.
Yes, it is a fucked up situation for him.
Right, it's just a question of do you want to explore that or not?
Yeah.
And I think the movie half-heartedly wants to, which is why there is the weird fiance situation.
This is such a half-assed movie.
Yeah, that's I think where we're coming down on. It's just not polished. We can come to our beloved feature of asking questions about this movie. The first question I would like to ask you is, what did you hate about this movie?
So, there's so many things I hate about
what is the thing you
movie.
absolutely hate? The one, if you could change only one thing, and then you'd have to rewatch the movie.
I would like a better supervillain. I think that the supervillain is done very poorly. It's kind of there's just a rich guy that has to be the supervillain, and it's kind of childish. But I think that they're
more interesting, maybe more colorful as well, because he's just a gray man at the end.
Yeah, it's Lex Luthor works something on this line.
Well, it depends on the movie as well.
Well, that's true. But it could be more super villain and not just villain.
Yeah, not just angry man because he got fired.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I hated most.
And also he is also because we talked about how these characters don't feel real. He proposes in the weirdest way to Sue Storm on the spaceship. It feels so
we didn't even know that they were dating before.
Yeah, exactly. And he just goes here's the ring. I have a ring for you. And she goes oh no, man. It's just so weird. And it just feels like he would know that this is wrong, right?
It should be more sleek. It should be
if we had learned already, if we had already learned that he's somehow living in his own fantasy world, then maybe this could work. But that's not established, so it's just weird.
So what did you hate about this movie?
I hate how people talk in this movie. There was actually a point where I had to pause the movie and just rant about how annoyed I am at it.
Well, it's not what I expected. I thought that the special effect would have won against
it. It was this, and it was also the music, because the music is just a nothing. Think about superhero scores and what you can do. You can go so cheesy with it, so much fun and all that. This is just random sounds sometimes.
But they have a cool song in the snowboarding scene.
Well, that brings us to what I loved about this movie, and it is that Sum 41's Newts plays in for like almost like 1.5 minutes, where we just watched random footage of people, like stunt people snowboarding and skiing, and I was just headbanging to it and had fun. That was great.
And also this relates to what I love most about the movie that is the action scene, like the snowboarding scene and the motorcycle scenes.
So kind of the physical stunts,
yes.
the unnecessary stunt work.
The unnecessary physical stunts are very, my favorite part, and the scene in which they all go into the elevator and it's too heavy, and the thing says, "I'm gonna go buy food." It's just like how it says,
take the stairs.
"I'll take the stairs." And it's like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like their last drop for the thing, and it's like, well done.
Okay, so we loved some things. Can this movie remain in the collection, or should we destroy it?
It shall be destroyed.
Okay. So what? How do you suggest we destroy it? Which should be a creative way of doing it. Something that is topical. Something that relates to the movie.
Maybe should melt it.
Should we do the things that Victor Von Doom does to the different Fantastic Fours?
No, I don't want to do the missile.
You freeze it down. Oh
yes, and there is all this thing. Do you know what happens to rubber?
Exactly.
And then do you know what happens to metal? It's like that's I removed it from my mind, because it was too
so
dumb.
maybe we should explain to the listeners what we're talking about. So, because Mr. Fantastic is stretchy, Victor Von Doom just assumes that he's made of rubber, and therefore, to defeat him, he has to just super cool him, because when you super cool rubber, it gets very
breakable,
fragile, and not very stretchy anymore. Wow. Okay.
And it doesn't work, of course, because dumb. But then Mr.
This was the setup.
Assumes that Victor is made of metal, and so it cools him down, and
after being heated up to a supernova level, so that he becomes melty or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they use regular hydrant water to cool him down rapidly.
Just melt it. Let's melt it.
Okay. You wanna
put it in the microwave?
You wanna tease?
Yes,
this movie then? Is that what you really badly want to do, apparently?
My peak.
Yes. On the Cringy Movie Collection Podcast, we go through my movie collection, my DVD collection. But I figured it would be fun to, 1 out of 5, we just watch one of the movies that Ludwika grew up with, to balance things out and get some culture in me as well. And so next time on the podcast, we're going to watch
the favorite movie from my childhood, The Aristocats.
The Walt Disney production from 1970, animated movie. Looks cool. I'm looking forward to watching it.
It's super cool, and we have to eat shogi broccoli with it.
Could you explain to the people who don't speak Swiss German what Schokibrötli are?
It's a sweet bread with chocolate chips. So, grab your shogi broccoli, grab the Aristocats, let's all watch this movie, and we'll see you next time. Bye!